The city was quiet that evening, but something felt strange in the air. All across the world, people sat in their homes or walked the streets, talking about the long war with the alien empire called the Lorethi. For years there had been fighting. In space and in distant places, and everyone was tired. Most people did not even remember how the war started. They just knew it seemed like it would never end. In a small town, Jason lived with his mother and younger sister, Lily. Their house was old but warm, and they always tried to have dinner together. That night, Jason came home from his job at the local hardware store. He took off his shoes and went to the kitchen, where his mother was cooking and Lily was doing her homework. Jason asked if there was any news about the war, and his mother shook her head. "Just the usual," she said. People worried, leaders making speeches, nothing really changing. They ate dinner together, but the TV in the living room was left on in case something important happened. It was always left on these days, just in case. While Jason and Lily cleaned the dishes, a strange noise came from the TV. At first, it was just static, then a bright light filled the screen. Jason's mother called them over. The news reporter looked pale. She tried to speak, but then a different image appeared. It was not a human face. It was tall and thin, with pale skin and bright silver eyes. It wore a crown made of a strange metal that glowed softly. The voice that spoke was not in English at first, but suddenly the words became clear. The whole world was watching. "People of Earth," the voice said, "I am Queen Illyra, ruler of the Lorethi Empire. I bring a message of peace. The war can end today." Everyone in the room went silent. The world had never seen the queen before. She looked powerful and serious. Her next words surprised everyone. "There will be peace between our peoples if one human will wed me," she said. "Let your leaders choose a champion. I promise the fighting will stop if this request is fulfilled." Jason looked at his mother. Lily's mouth was open in shock. The TV screen went back to the news reporter, who did not know what to say. The world seemed frozen for a moment, as if nobody believed what they had heard. On the streets, people stopped walking. In offices, workers gathered around screens. In schools, teachers turned on the news. All around the world, people asked each other, "Did she really say that?" Some laughed, thinking it was a trick or a joke. Others felt afraid. The war had been so terrible that any hope of peace felt like a dream. Jason sat back on the couch. "Why would she want to marry a human?" he asked quietly. His mother shook her head. "I don't know. Maybe it's a trap, or maybe she really wants peace." Lily, who was only 14, looked at her brother. "Would you do it, Jason, if they asked you to?" Jason smiled a little. "I'm just a regular guy, Lily. I work at a store. I'm not a hero," but Lily was serious. "Sometimes heroes are just people who do the right thing." The night grew longer, and the world stayed awake. News channels showed the Queen's message again and again. Leaders from different countries called meetings. Some people thought the Queen's offer was a way to take control of Earth without fighting. Others said it was a chance to save millions of lives. Families argued in their living rooms. People on the internet made jokes, drew pictures of the Queen, and made lists of who they thought should volunteer. In Washington, world leaders met in secret rooms. The president listened to advisors, some of whom wanted to say no to the Queen, others who said peace was more important than pride. The Queen's message played in the background. Nobody knew what would happen next. Jason lay in bed that night and thought about the Queen's face. She did not look angry or cruel, but she did look very alone. He wondered if she felt as tired of fighting as he did. He closed his eyes, but he could not sleep. The next day, Jason went to work as usual. People at the store were all talking about the Queen's proposal. An old man joked that his wife would not let him volunteer, and everyone laughed, but there was fear in their eyes. Jason's boss, Mr. Turner, said, "The world is changing, Jason. Maybe for the better, maybe not, who knows?" That afternoon, the government made a public announcement. They would speak with the Lorethi and try to learn more about the Queen's demand. The president said they wanted to keep everyone safe, but he also said, "We must consider every chance for peace." Some people cheered, others were angry. There were protests in the streets. Some wanted the war to go on, thinking humanity should not bow down to aliens. Others said the fighting had gone on long enough. Jason watched the news at lunch and wondered what he would do if he were chosen. He was not rich or famous. He did not have any special skills. But he did want peace. When Jason got home that night, his mother asked him, "What do you think they will do?" He shrugged. "Maybe they will find someone brave, someone important." Lily said, "I think you are brave, Jason. You always help people." Jason smiled and ruffled his sister's hair. "Thanks, Lily, but I'm just one guy in a world of billions." But the world was full of surprises. As night came, the Queen's face appeared again on TV. She said, "My offer is real. I will meet with your leaders. If my request is answered, peace will come." In homes all over Earth, people waited. Would anyone be brave enough to say yes? Would the leaders accept the Queen's strange proposal? Some people dreamed of being famous, others feared the unknown. But deep down, everyone hoped for an end to the war. Jason sat by the window, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Queen was waiting for an answer. He wondered if he would ever see her in person, or if this was just another strange moment in a world full of strange moments. As the world waited, Jason made a promise to himself. If he had the chance to help, he would at least try. He did not know what the future would bring, but he knew that sometimes peace was worth any price. The days that followed were full of rumors. People sent letters to the government, some offering to marry the Queen, others begging for someone else to go. On the news, experts argued about what the Queen really wanted. Some said she was testing humanity, others thought she was just lonely. Jason did not talk much about it at work, but at home he thought about it every night. His mother was worried, but Lily seemed hopeful. She believed that good things could happen, even in dark times. The world was changing, and nobody knew what would happen next. But for Jason and his family, hope was a small light in the darkness. They held on to it, waiting to see what the Queen and the future would bring. All around the world, the days after the Queen's message felt like a strange dream. In every city, town, and village, people could not stop talking about the alien Queen's demand. News channels showed endless discussions. Experts tried to guess what would happen next. Some thought it was all a trick. Others hoped it was a real chance for peace. Everyone felt nervous. In Jason's town, the grocery store was busy. People walked up and down the aisles, their baskets full, but their minds far away. Jason noticed that almost everyone was whispering about the Queen. He heard a woman say, "Can you imagine marrying an alien?" Her friend replied, "I would do it for peace, but only if I could come back home after." A young boy asked his mother if he could become a prince if he married the Queen. The mother laughed, but there was fear in her eyes. At home, Jason's mother watched the news more than ever. She called Jason at work and told him every update. Lily spent her afternoons reading stories online about people who said they wanted to be the one to marry the Queen. Some said they were brave enough. Others just wanted to be famous. One afternoon, Jason came home and found Lily on the computer, filling out a government form. He sat beside her and asked, "What are you doing?" She turned to him and smiled. "It's the volunteer form. Anyone can fill it out if they want to be chosen." Jason laughed. "You're too young, Lily. They won't pick you," Lily giggled. "I know, but I wanted to see what they ask. It's not hard. Name, age, why you want to help." "They want someone." "Honest?" Jason looked at the screen. He thought about the war and the Queen's sad eyes. He did not want to be famous, but he wanted the fighting to stop. He thought about the people who had lost so much. Maybe one person really could make a difference. That night, while his family slept, Jason sat at the kitchen table. He opened the government website and stared at the form. His hands shook a little. He filled in his name, age, and job. When it asked why he wanted to help, Jason wrote, "I want peace. I want my family and everyone else to be safe. I am not special, but I will try to do what is right." He almost deleted it, feeling silly, but then he pressed send. The next morning, the president appeared on television. He spoke with leaders from other countries. Together they announced that they had talked to the Lorethi. The Queen's offer was real. She wanted a true marriage, not just a show for the cameras. She asked for a human who was honest and kind, someone who could be trusted. Governments everywhere asked for volunteers. The rules were simple. The person had to be over 18, healthy, and willing to live with the Lorethi. They had to promise to try their best to bring peace. People from all over the world sent in their forms. Some were excited, others scared. Many thought they could not possibly be chosen. Jason told no one that he had applied. He went to work as always, helping customers find tools and paint. A few days later, the government sent Jason an email. He read it 3 times before he believed it. The message said he was one of the people chosen for the next step. They asked him to come to a nearby city for interviews and tests. Jason felt his heart pound in his chest. He told his mother and Lily that night. His mother covered her mouth with her hands. "Oh, Jason," she said, her voice shaking. "Are you sure?" Jason nodded. "I filled out the form. I just want to help. Maybe I won't be picked, but maybe I will." Lily hugged him tight. "I think you'll do great," she said. The next week was full of travel and waiting. Jason rode the bus to the city and entered a large building full of security guards and scientists. There were other men and women there, all ages, from all walks of life. Some looked nervous. Others tried to act brave. A doctor gave Jason a checkup. They checked his blood, his heart, his eyes. A friendly woman asked him questions about his life, his family, and what he believed. Jason told her he liked quiet days, working with his hands and being with his family. He said he did not know much about aliens, but he believed peace was always worth trying for. The next day, Jason and the other candidates were shown a message from Queen Alira herself. On a large screen, she spoke slowly and clearly. "I ask for a human partner who wishes for peace. This marriage will be real. It will not be easy, but it can save many lives." One of the other candidates, a woman named Megan, said, "What if you change your mind, Your Majesty?" The Queen smiled, her silver eyes soft. "I promise to keep my word. I want this war to end." The candidates met with scientists and diplomats who explained what might happen if they were chosen. They talked about what life would be like on the Lorethi ships, the food, the customs, the rules. Some people left, feeling afraid or not ready. Others, like Jason, stayed. The days were long. Jason missed his family. Every night he called home. His mother always told him, "Whatever happens, we love you." Lily told him funny stories from school to help him feel less nervous. Soon, only a few candidates remained. Jason was quiet and listened more than he spoke. He did not tell stories about being a hero. He did not promise to fix everything. When asked why he stayed, Jason always said, "I want the war to end." The Queen's envoys finally arrived on Earth. They came in shining ships and wore robes of white and blue. Their skin was smooth and their eyes bright. They spoke perfect English, but their voices were strange and musical. The envoys met the candidates one by one. They asked simple questions. What makes you happy? What do you fear? What do you hope for? Jason answered each question as honestly as he could. When the envoys spoke to Jason, they looked at each other and seemed to whisper without words. One of them asked, "Are you afraid of us?" Jason answered, "A little. You are very different, but I am more afraid of never having peace." Later that night, the Queen herself spoke to the remaining candidates through a video call. Her face filled the screen. She said, "I thank you for your courage. I wish only for peace. I know this is a hard choice. I want someone who truly hopes for a better world." Jason was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I don't know if I am the best, but I will try to be honest and kind." The Queen watched him with her silver eyes. She nodded slowly. After the calls, the envoys met in private. The candidates waited in a room together. Some were nervous, some hopeful. Jason sat by the window, looking out at the sky, thinking about home. At last, the envoys returned. They spoke to Jason and said, "The Queen has chosen you. You are the one she wishes to meet in person." Jason felt numb. He called his family right away. His mother cried, but she told him she was proud. Lily cheered and said, "I knew it. You're going to be a peacemaker, Jason." The world found out the next morning. News channels showed Jason's picture and told his story. Some people cheered, others worried. Many wondered what would happen next. As Jason packed his bag, he looked around his room one last time. He did not know if he would come back, but he knew what he was doing was important. His family hugged him tightly at the bus station. Be brave, his mother whispered. Lily pressed something into his hand. It was a small stone she had painted blue. For luck, she said. Jason smiled and held the stone tight. He climbed onto the bus, feeling scared but also hopeful. The world watched as Jason began his journey. The first human to meet the Queen. Far above the earth, the Lorethi ships waited in the sky. The war was not over yet, but for the first time in years, there was hope that peace was possible. Jason sat on the shuttle as it lifted off the ground. The city below grew smaller and smaller, the lights turning into a soft glow against the dark land. He pressed his face to the small window, feeling both amazed and afraid. He had never flown in a ship before, and this was not just any ship. This was a shuttle that would take him to the edge of space, where the Lorethi flagship waited. Around him, government workers and scientists checked equipment and spoke in quiet voices. A young woman handed him a package. "This is your new uniform," she said with a gentle smile. "It will help you look respectful when you meet the Queen." Jason opened the package and found a simple, clean suit. It was gray and soft, with a silver pin shaped like a star. He held it in his hands and wondered what it would be like to wear the clothes of an ambassador, someone who would speak for all of humanity. As the shuttle shook and pushed into the sky, Jason felt the weight of what he was doing. He thought about his mother and Lily. He remembered his old life, the hardware store, the smell of fresh-cut wood, the sound of his sister's laughter in the backyard. All of that felt very far away now. The shuttle passed through clouds, then through darkness until Jason saw stars shining bright and clear. Soon, the earth looked like a blue and green marble. Ahead, he saw something he had only seen on TV before. The Lorethi flagship hung in space like a jewel, huge and silver and full of light. Smaller ships moved around it like fish swimming around a whale. The shuttle docked with the flagship. Jason felt a soft bump as the doors sealed shut. The scientist next to him gave him a nervous smile. "Good luck, Jason. The world is counting on you." Jason followed the envoys through wide, bright halls. The walls shone with a light that seemed to come from nowhere. Lorethi symbols ran along the edges, smooth and flowing, nothing like human writing. The air was cool and smelled faintly of flowers. The Queen's guards waited in blue and white uniforms. Their eyes watched every move, but none of them looked angry. They seemed curious about Jason. He walked with the envoys into a tall room filled with windows. Stars shone in every direction. At the far end stood Queen Alira. She was taller than Jason remembered from the screen. Her silver eyes watched him closely, but her face was calm and kind. Her hair shone like moonlight, and her dress was made of soft blue fabric that floated around her like mist. Jason bowed, unsure what to do. "Your Majesty," he said quietly. Queen Alira nodded. "Welcome, Jason. Thank you for coming." Her voice was gentle, but full of strength. She spoke perfect English, but her words sounded like music. "I know this is not easy for you," she said. "You have left your world behind." "That takes courage." Jason nodded. "I want peace. I want the fighting to end. If this can help, I will do my best." The Queen smiled, her eyes softening. "You speak simply and honestly. That is rare and good." She invited Jason to sit with her near the windows. They looked out at Earth together, silent for a long time. Jason felt small and quiet, but not afraid. Queen Alira asked about Jason's family, his town, and his life on Earth. Jason told her stories about his mother, about Lily's jokes, about the people at the hardware store. He talked about how people tried to help each other, even when life was hard. The Queen listened closely, nodding now and then. "Your people have much spirit," she said. "You are strong in ways the Lorethi do not always understand." Jason was surprised. "Most people on Earth think you are much stronger than us. Your ships, your technology, even your voices. They can do things we can't." Queen Alira smiled sadly. "Strength is not just ships and machines. Sometimes it is kindness." Sometimes it is hope. For the next few days, Jason stayed on the Lorethi flagship. He met many Lorethi, each with their own jobs. Some were guards, others worked in gardens, kitchens, or the great library. Most of them had never seen a human before. They watched Jason with bright, curious eyes. A few tried to talk to him. Their English slow and careful. Jason learned how to bow in Lorethi style and how to eat their food. He tried new fruits that tasted like sweet snow and bread that melted in his mouth. He drank tea that was blue and smelled like mint. One morning, Queen Alira invited Jason to walk with her in the garden. The garden was full of tall blue flowers, trees with silver leaves, and a pond that glowed softly in the dark. Jason noticed small animals, round and gentle, eating fallen fruit near the water. Alira pointed to the animals. On my world, these are called Nira. They are shy, but very kind. Like some people, they watch before they trust. Jason smiled. Do you trust me, Your Majesty? The queen stopped walking. She turned to Jason and said, I want to trust you. I see goodness in you, but trust is something we build with time. They sat by the pond, and Alira told Jason about her people. She said the Lorethi were proud and loved beauty and peace, but they had become afraid of outsiders. That fear turned into war. We lost much in this war too, she said quietly. Families, hope, time. I do not want to lose more. Jason listened. He thought about his family, the people he loved, and the long nights he spent wishing the war would end. He told the queen, I do not want to lose anything else either, not my family, not my world, not hope. The queen looked at him for a long moment. If we are joined, your world and mine must learn to live together. It will not be easy, there will be mistakes, but maybe together we can show our people that peace is possible. That night Jason could not sleep. He lay on his bed, looking at the painted stone Lily had given him. He wondered if he was strong enough for what was coming. He wondered if Earth and the Lorethi could really find peace. The next day the queen called a meeting of her council. Jason was invited. The room was filled with Lorethi elders, dressed in silver and blue. They spoke in quiet voices, looking at Jason and then at the queen. Some of them seemed worried. One elder, a tall man with white hair, asked, How do we know this human can be trusted? The queen looked at Jason. You may ask him anything. The elder asked about Jason's hopes, his fears, his dreams. Jason answered as best as he could. He told the council that he was not a hero, just a man who wanted peace. He said he would do his best to honor both worlds. When the council finished, the queen said, It is decided. The marriage will take place in 3 days. It will be a public event. All of Earth and the Lorethi will watch. Jason felt his heart pound in his chest. He nodded and tried to smile. Later he spoke to his family by video call. His mother smiled and cried at the same time. We are so proud of you, Jason, she said. Lily waved and said, You can do this. I believe in you. Jason promised he would try his best. When the call ended, he sat quietly, thinking about everything that had happened. He remembered the war, the fear, and the hope that maybe, just maybe, peace was finally possible. The next days were full of preparation. Jason learned how the ceremony would work. He practiced Lorethi words and gestures. The queen taught him how to greet her people. Human clothes were brought from Earth, and the Lorethi made special robes for him to wear. On the eve of the wedding, Jason stood on the balcony of his room and looked out at Earth. The blue and green world shone against the darkness of space. He thought of all the people watching, all the families hoping for peace. He wondered what the future would bring, but he knew he had to try. He closed his eyes, held Lily's blue stone, and whispered a promise to himself. I will do my best. I will try for peace. Far away, the people of Earth and the Lorethi waited. Some were afraid, some were hopeful, and some did not know what to think. But for the first time in a long time, there was a chance that the war could end not with more fighting, but with a simple act of trust. Jason woke early on the day before the ceremony. The halls of the flagship were quiet except for soft lights that glowed along the walls. He dressed in a simple gray suit the envoys had given him. The silver star pin lay heavy on his chest. He felt nervous but also determined. Today he would learn everything he needed to know for the ceremony. A servant led him to a large room where the queen waited. Illyra stood by a window, her pale hair flowing over her blue dress. She turned when Jason entered. "Good morning," she said softly. Jason bowed his head. "Good morning, Your Majesty." Illyra smiled. "Today we will practice the ceremony. You will learn the words and the gestures." They walked to a low platform in the center of the room. Two envoys stood beside it, holding scrolls. The platform was covered with soft white fabric and decorated with flowers from the Luthri home. World. Jason knelt on a cushion. Illyra stood on the other side. "This is how we will begin," the first envoy said. He spoke slowly in a quiet voice. "You will place your hand in the queen's hand and say, 'I pledge my heart and my honor to.' You, Illyra, queen of the Luthri Empire, then she will speak." Jason listened. He repeated the words under his breath. The envoy helped him adjust his posture. Jason's knees hurt, but he did not complain. He wanted to do it right. Illyra watched him carefully. When Jason finished, she said, "Now I will speak. I will say, 'Jason, I accept your pledge. Together we bring peace to our peoples, then we will bow.'" They practiced again and again. Jason stumbled over the queen's name the first time. Illyra gently corrected him. She held his gaze with her silver eyes and nodded. Jason felt his heart calm a little. After the envoys left, Illyra took Jason's arm. They walked through long corridors lined with plants that glowed softly. Jason had never seen anything like them. The air smelled sweet like mint and jasmine. "How do you feel?" Illyra asked. Jason thought of his mother and Lily. He thought of Earth, the sound of rain on rooftops, the laughter of children. He sighed, "I feel ready, but I am nervous." Illyra squeezed his arm. "Nervous is good. It means you care." They came to a large room filled with mirrors. Here, Jason would practice his posture and gestures. A servant handed him a robe of pale blue silk. Illyra's robe was deeper blue, trimmed with silver. The patterns on her dress looked like waves. Jason slipped on the silk robe. It was light and cool. He looked at himself in the mirror. He saw a man he barely recognized. His hair was neatly combed, his face clean. He stood tall and straight. He looked important. Illyra stood beside him in her gown. "You look good," she said. Jason blushed. "Thank you." They practiced walking together, side by side. Jason learned to match his steps to Illyra's. Slow pace. She showed him how to hold his head, how to bow after the words. They repeated it many times until both of them moved as one. Afterward, Illyra led Jason to a balcony overlooking a garden. Tall blue flowers waved in a gentle breeze. The galaxy spread out before them like a tapestry of stars. "This garden is my favorite place," Illyra said. She opened her hand and showed Jason a flower petal. It was warm to the touch. "On my world, we believe these flowers bring peace to those who walk among them." Jason breathed in the sweet air. He thought of the war, the battles that had scarred both worlds. He turned to Illyra. "Maybe these flowers can help us remember why we fight for peace." Illyra looked at him and smiled. "You understand more than you know?" They sat on a stone bench and talked for hours. Jason asked about Illyra's childhood. She told him about her homeworld, its oceans and forests, the music her people sang at dawn. Jason shared stories of Earth's beaches, the smell of pine forests, the taste of fresh fruit on a summer day. As they talked, Jason forgot about the ceremony. He forgot about the cameras and the watchers. He saw only a woman who wanted peace, and he felt a growing friendship between them. When the sun dimmed and the flowers glowed in twilight, Illyra stood. "We should rest," she said. "Tomorrow will be a long day." Jason nodded. He felt tired but at peace. He followed Illyra back to the quarters where he would sleep. That night, Jason dreamed of Earth. In his dream, he stood on a hill covered in green grass. The sky was soft and golden. His mother and Lily stood beside him. They smiled and waved. Then Illyra appeared, extending her hand. Jason took it and felt warmth spread through him. When He woke. The sky beyond his window was bright with the light of distant stars. The day of the ceremony had come. Jason dressed in the robes given to him by the Queen's Council. The pale blue silk felt smooth against his skin. He pinned the silver star to his chest. He looked at his reflection and felt his heart beat fast. A servant led him to the great hall. The corridor was lined with Luthri guards. Each guard stood tall and silent, their eyes on Jason. He walked with steady steps, remembering his practice. At the end of the hall, heavy doors opened to the main chamber. Jason paused for a moment, then stepped inside. The room was vast and bright. Tall pillars rose to a high ceiling decorated with mosaics of galaxies. In the center stood the platform, with white fabric and flowers. Chairs lined the sides of the hall. On one side sat Luthri nobles, their faces curious and serious. On the other side, behind a transparent barrier, were humans, leaders, scientists, reporters, and families. And Jason spotted his mother on a screen among the watchers. Her face was proud and tearful. Illyra entered from a side door. She wore a gown of deep blue with silver threads shining like stars. She moved gracefully, her eyes on Jason. She reached the platform and paused. Jason took a deep breath and stepped forward. Illyra held out her hand. Jason placed his hand in hers, just as he had practiced. Her skin was cool and smooth. His voice echoed in the hall as he spoke. "I pledge my heart and my honor to you, Illyra, Queen of the Luthri Empire." He looked into her silver eyes. He spoke each word with clear meaning. The hall was silent except for his voice. Illyra raised her head and spoke, her voice soft but strong. "Jason, I accept your pledge. Together we bring peace to our peoples." They bowed together. A single note of music began soft and sweet. Flowers fell from above, drifting around them like snow. The watchers gasped, then applauded. Earth and Luthri both cheered in their own ways. After the ceremony, Jason and Illyra walked down the platform together. They smiled at each other and at the crowd. Jason felt tears in his eyes. He felt hope and relief. The war would end. In the days that followed, treaties were signed. Trade routes opened. People from both worlds wrote letters and emails, exchanging stories and ideas. Jason and Illyra traveled together to Earth. They walked among crowds in cities and towns, shaking hands and meeting families. Jason's mother and Lily welcomed Illyra. On a bright afternoon, Lily gave Illyra a bouquet of earth flowers, roses, and daisies. Illyra smelled the flowers and smiled. "They are beautiful," she said. Jason took his mother's hand and said, "Thank you for believing in me." His mother hugged him and whispered, "You did it, Jason." As Jason and Illyra looked at the sky, where Luthri ships floated above Earth, Jason felt something he had not felt in a long time: peace. He held Illyra's hand and knew that together they had built a bridge between worlds. And in that moment he understood that love and courage could change the fate of everyone. Jason and Illyra stepped down from the ship's ramp onto Earth for the first time since the ceremony. The crowds cheered and waved flags of both worlds. Jason held Illyra's hand as they walked forward. He felt proud but also nervous. This was a new beginning, and he knew there would be challenges ahead. They rode in a simple vehicle through the city streets. Human and Luthri citizens lined the roads, clapping and calling greetings. Illyra looked around with wonder. She had never seen trees so full of green or buildings so varied in shape and color. Jason squeezed her hand and smiled. Their first stop was a public plaza near a tall monument. A human leader, President Clark, gave a speech. He spoke of hope and unity. He thanked Jason for his bravery and Illyra for her trust. Illyra watched the humans with kind eyes. Some faces showed joy, others still seemed doubtful. After the speech, Jason and Illyra walked among the crowd. A young boy named Chris ran up and held out a drawing of Jason and Illyra together. Illyra knelt to look at it and smiled. "This is beautiful," she said softly. Chris beamed with pride. Later, Jason and Illyra visited a community center where humans and Luthri would learn each other's languages. The room was filled with students of all ages. A teacher named Lavra stood at the front. She told Jason that many humans wanted to learn Luthri culture and history. Jason joined a small group of students. Illyra watched as he tried to pronounce Luthri words. His voice was clumsy at first, but he laughed and tried again. The students clapped when he got it right. Illyra felt warmth in her heart. She knew this was how trust would grow, one person at a time. The next day, Jason and Illyra visited a hospital. The Luthri had brought healing technology that could help injured humans. Jason walked through the halls, seeing patients who once feared aliens now smiling as they received care. Illyra moved from bed to bed, speaking gentle words in Luthri and human tongues. In one room, Jason met a soldier named Daniel. He had lost his arm in battle. Daniel looked at Illyra and shook his head. "I would not trust you before," he said quietly. Illyra reached out and held his hand. "I understand your pain," she replied. "I am sorry for your loss." "I hope we can heal together," Daniel nodded. Tears filled his eyes. He took Jason's hand. "Thank you," he whispered. News of the joint visit spread quickly. People saw Jason and Illyra as symbols of hope, but not everyone was happy. A small group of protesters gathered outside the presidential palace, holding signs that read "No Alien Rule" and "Humans First." Jason saw them from a distance. He felt uneasy. That evening, Jason and Illyra discussed the protest. They sat in a quiet room on the ship as it orbited Earth. Illyra looked at Jason with concern. "Some fear what they do not know," she said. Jason nodded. "We cannot force trust. We must earn it with actions that help people every day." Illyra reached for his hand. "You are wise, Jason. I will follow your lead." The next morning, Jason and Illyra invited the protest leaders to talk. He met with a man named Chandler and a woman named Zoe. They spoke about their fears of losing human power, of being ruled by aliens, of losing their identity. Jason listened. He asked questions and tried to understand their worries. Illyra spoke calmly and offered assurances. She said the Luthri did not wish to rule humans, only to be friends and partners. "We do not seek to change your world against your will," she said. "We wish to share what we have learned and learn from you too." Chandler and Zoe left, the meeting feeling heard. They agreed to work with a council of humans and Luthri to guide the peace process. Over the following weeks, Jason and Illyra traveled to many places: farmlands, factories, schools, and markets. They shared meals, listened to stories, and helped settle disputes. In one village, a dispute over water rights had lasted for years. Illyra used Luthri sensors to find a new source of water without harming the land. The villagers cheered when water flowed again. Jason saw tears of relief and joy. In another town, humans taught Luthri how to grow earth crops. The Luthri were fascinated by corn and tomatoes. They asked Jason many questions. Jason laughed as he showed them how to plant seeds and care for them. At night, Jason and Illyra met with scientists and leaders. They planned new project schools that taught both cultures, farms that shared knowledge, and councils that would include human and Luthri members. One day, a crisis tested their bond. A Luthri ship malfunctioned and crash-landed on a mountain. Many Luthri sailors were injured. News reporters showed angry humans surrounding the crash site, fearful of the aliens. Jason raced to the scene with human rescue teams. Illyra followed in a faster ship. Jason arrived first. He saw Luthri sailors trapped in the wreckage. Human rescuers hesitated, unsure if they should help. Jason ran forward and began pulling debris away. He called for water and blankets. Soon the rescue teams joined him. They saved the Luthri sailors one by one. When Illyra arrived, she saw humans and Luthri working together. She felt pride. Jason met her at the wreckage. He held out his hand. She took it, and they stood together as the sun set behind the mountain. This act of courage and care was shown across both worlds. People saw that humans could be brave and kind, even to those they once feared. Mistrust began to fade. As months passed, trade routes opened. Goods moved between Earth and the Luthri homeworld. Artists exchanged songs and paintings. Doctors exchanged medical knowledge. Scientists worked on peaceful projects. Jason and Illyra returned to the plaza where they had first arrived. A great celebration was held for both peoples. There was music, dancing, and feasting. Jason watched as Luthri children tried Earth games, and human children tried Luthri sports. Jason's mother and Lily joined the celebration. Lily hugged Illyra and whispered, "I am glad you are here." Illyra smiled and whispered back, "I am glad too." When the music ended, Jason and Illyra stood on a small stage. Jason spoke into the microphone. "Today we are not just humans. Or Luthri, we are friends. We have faced fear and doubt, but we chose hope. Let us continue to walk together, learn from each other, and build a future where peace is stronger than war." Cheers rose from the crowd. Jason looked at Illyra. She bowed her head in thanks. That night, Jason and Illyra returned to the flagship. They stood at the window and looked at Earth below. Lights blinked across its surface. Trade ships moved in orbit. Jason placed a hand on Illyra's shoulder. "Look at what we have done," he said softly. Illyra leaned into him. "Look at what we can do," she replied. They knew the road ahead would not always be easy. There would be disagreements and fears, but they had shown that a simple act of trust and courage could change the fate of worlds. And they believed that together they could keep that trust alive for generations to come. Jason woke early and looked out the window at Earth below. The world he helped save glowed with cities and fields. He thought of how much had changed. He wore a simple suit, his silver star pin on the lapel. Today he would chair the first meeting of the Earth-Lorethi Council. This group would guide the peace and help both peoples learn from each other. In the council room, humans sat on one side and Lorethi on the other. Illyra joined him at the head of the table. She wore a robe of pale blue silk. Jason felt proud to work by her side. President Clark and Lorethi Elder Iris stood with them. Both spoke about the importance of trust and listening. Jason cleared his throat. "Thank you all for coming," he said. His voice was calm. "We begin today as friends. We must share ideas and solve problems together." He looked at the council members. "Let us start with one task. Set up schools where humans and Lorethi learn each other's language." He saw nods around the room. The council members discussed details. Lavra, the teacher, explained how to teach simple words first. Elder Iris spoke of Lorethi lessons in art and music. They agreed to open schools in cities and towns. Jason felt hope. He knew children would grow up without fear. After the meeting, Jason and Illyra walked in a garden on the flagship. The saying, blue flowers grew there, as if to remind them of peace. Illyra held Jason's hand. "You did well today," she said. Jason smiled. "We did well," he replied. "This is only the start." Later, Jason returned to Earth. He visited a factory that made parts for Lorethi ships. Human and Lorethi workers stood side by side learning new skills. A man named Ryan showed a Lorethi worker how to use a tool. The Lorethi smiled and said, "Thank you for teaching me." Ryan nodded. "We teach each other." Jason walked through the factory and spoke to workers. Some asked him questions about life on Lorethi homeworld. Jason answered simply. He said the Lorethi live near oceans of silver water, under skies that glow at night. The workers listened and smiled. In a small town, Jason visited a farm where Lorethi soil sensors helped farmers grow crops with less water. The Lorethi engineer, Mara, explained the device. Farmer Tom tested it and said, "I never thought I would work with alien tools, but this helps my land." Mara nodded. "I am glad to help Earth." They shook hands. Jason then joined a ceremony to open a new library. The building had books in both human and Lorethi languages. Illyra cut a ribbon. The crowd cheered. Children ran in to read stories. Jason watched them and felt a warm glow. One evening, a message arrived that a Lorethi ship had severe damage near the moon. Some feared another crash. Jason and Illyra decided to visit. They flew in a small shuttle to the damaged ship. It hovered in orbit, its lights flickering. They boarded the ship and found crew members trapped by broken panels. Human rescue teams hesitated at the airlock, unsure of the damage. Jason led the way. He and Lorethi engineers worked together to seal hull breaches. Illyra spoke calm words to the frightened crew. After hours of work, they fixed the ship enough for it to return to the flagship. The crew thanked Jason and Illyra. One Lorethi sailor said, "You saved us again." Jason shook his head. "We saved each other." News of their joint effort spread. People on Earth and Lorethi homeworld saw how humans and aliens could help in crisis. Trust grew stronger. Months later, Jason and Illyra attended a festival on Earth. The streets were filled with lanterns of silver and blue. Humans played Lorethi music, and Lorethi performed Earth dances. Food stalls offered new dishes, sweet fruits from Lorethi and hearty stews from Earth. Jason spotted Lily in the crowd. She waved and held up a sign that read Peacemaker. She ran to him and hugged his leg. Jason lifted her up and spun her around. She laughed. Illyra watched, smiling softly. Jason introduced Lily to a Lorethi child named Talia. The two held hands and skipped away. Illyra held Jason's arm. "Your sister is brave like you," she said. The festival ended with a speech by Jason. He stood on a stage flanked by Illyra. He said, "Look at what we can do when we trust each other. Look at our children, learning and playing together. This is the future we choose." Illyra added, "We have shown that peace can grow from friendship and understanding. Let us keep planting these seeds." The crowd cheered, voices rising in both human and Lorethi tongues. Later that night, Jason and Illyra walked on a hill overlooking the city. Lights twinkled below, and the stars shone above. Jason held Illyra's hand. "We have come far," he said. Lia leaned her head on his shoulder. "And we will go further," she replied. They stood in silence, dreaming of the world they built. The war was over, but the work of peace went on. Jason knew there would be challenges, fear, mistakes, and doubts. But he also knew that simple acts of kindness and courage could heal old wounds. As they watched the night sky, Jason made a promise to himself and to Illyra. He would always stand for peace, always listen, and always work to bring their peoples together. And in that promise, he found strength for the days to come.